sweetheart?
So let's say I would like to devote myself for 2, 3 years to develop shamatha.
Okay, good.
What would you advise to
Okay,
start
I
with
will
and
tell you.
devote to it
I
and
will tell you.
get a
I
great
will tell
result?
you. I will tell you. If you really want to do it seriously, you've got to um, you've got to really be serious. You want to be serious, like Renee,
For example?
the Swiss monk. Okay, that means you've got to give up attachment to food, sex, mortgages, people, things, jobs. You've got to not already got to be quite advanced. You've got to not care what you wear, what you eat. You've got to be able to walk away right now to some place in isolation with really good teachings from having practiced for a couple of years, so that you can then begin to get concentration. But Renee said, and he's been a monk for like 40 something years. Well, I think, yeah, and he's been practicing for 40 years, concentration, meditation, as well as everything else. And when I interviewed him in '95 about this retreat he did, 2.5 years, he said there was no way he'd be qualified to even get to the mountains to do the retreat without having first lived as a monk, having given up sex, drugs, and rock and roll, without having done several years of study, and without doing already several years of even teaching. That was the basis. So the answer to your question is start with controlling your body and speech and doing the 10 non-virtues and doing your purification, take the 5 lay vows, and then you go on from there.
So there's no point like to go to occasions without
No, darling, unless you're highly advanced already, you within 5 minutes you'll go crazy or you'll leave, one or the other.
okay.
Do you understand?
I understand.
Okay, good. So start today. Control your body, speech, and mind. That's it.
But why? May I ask why not? Because when you start the meditation you just go crazy and all the things come.
Because you have no idea what your mind is. You don't know what a delusion is. We don't know what a virtue is. We have no control. We think about the weather. We think about our body. We think about the food. We think about the girls. We think about the mortgage. We think about all these millions of things that are occupying our life right now. So to even go away for one day in isolation. I remember reading recently this is very funny actually, about these guys who are gamblers, and they gamble, they will bet on anything. So this one guy bet $100,000 to his friend that he would close himself in a bathroom and turn the lights off and live there for 1 month. So he took the bet. But he's like he nearly went mad. And they agreed they'd go back and forth with their betting. And then they agreed he'd give him 70,000 if he came out after 3 weeks. But so the assumption in our culture is you become mentally ill, you go completely crazy because we just don't know what to do with our mind. So and he just managed. But it had nothing to do with his mind. That's why people in prison all go crazy when they're put into isolation. Because we don't know what our mind is, we don't know what a delusion is, we don't know we have no methods, we don't know how to work with our mind, we don't understand it, and we assume you're mentally ill if you live on your own. Because we think of ourselves as social beings. We think we have to be made human by being around others. Very different views, but there's no understanding what to do with the mind in our culture. There isn't. So unless you come to this life with a lot of qualities already, don't even bother trying to go to a cave. Many people go mad because what happens, many people, you go to meditate. I've met so many people like this. You go to meditate because they've got some past experience from past lives. They don't know that. They have a special feeling. So they think they're kind of radiant. The one prisoner went completely crazy because he thought he was a special meditator. Another guy was a Brazilian fellow. He used to leave his body during the night and travel around visiting his girlfriend in Melbourne and going to Africa. You can do that. That's part of practice. We're highly realized beings, but he didn't know about that. So he'd be almost nuts, One woman came to do some practice and she got a lot of bliss. She'd sit there like a vampire doing Tara meditation, trying to get bliss every day, thinking that bliss is spiritual teachings. So we have no idea what to do. This guy in prison had some capacity to concentrate. He didn't know why, but he was completely insane. He wrote to Lama Zopa, convinced he was enlightened, and wanted Lama Zopa to announce he was enlightened, because we don't understand about attachment. The guy who was traveling around, astral traveling, which is what you can do when your mind's developed, he didn't know why he could do it. He thought he was special, so giving attachment sounded so boring to him. So we don't know about our minds. People go mad because the mind is so powerful, and also because since beginningless time, the Buddha would say, there's nothing we've ever experienced that has disappeared from our mind. Everything is stored there. As Lama Zopa says, it's like our mind is like, or Geshe Tashi in London said, it's like we're like shooting a movie all day. Everything we ever experience is stored in our mind as memories. So if you sit for 5 minutes without knowing it, stuff's going to come up. And you have no idea what it's all about or how to interpret it. So it's a massive job to do. Do you understand? So you've got to be really prepared. It makes sense. But we don't understand this in our culture. We have no understanding, with respect to us, no understanding of the internal workings of the human mind. We understand the brain. We're geniuses, you know. That's why we all go crazy, isn't it? So go slowly. Start one step at a time. Just, yeah, one step at a time. What else, people? I think it's enough, isn't it? Have you had enough? You people? Nothing? Sure, darling, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. No, I understand that. Well, that's where we would formalize to take refuge and take the layperson's vows. So let me talk about that, shall I? Okay. So that's the first formal step that a person would do. You're like, you hear Buddha's teachings, you like the idea, you think you might be a nice person trying to kill, lie, steal, and then you decide, okay, I think I like Buddhism, I've checked it up, and now I want to formalize myself and become a Buddhist. So that's where you take refuge. And then either at the same time, formally in front of somebody whom you've decided is one of your teachers, because it's like an important thing to choose the person you do it with, because they represent the Buddha for you. You then also, at the same time or later, can take the 5 layperson's vows. So they're 2 separate things. Let me talk about them. So first of all, refuge, this formalizing of your decision to, say, follow Buddha's teachings. You're deciding you rely upon the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So what the Buddha is, they talk about the absolute Buddha. That just means the pure, unmanifest, all-knowing, all-compassionate consciousness. And billions of beings have become a Buddha. So that mind, that's the actual Buddha. But then the relative Buddha is the human form, like, for example, Shakyamuni Buddha, the human body manifesting, the Buddha's mind manifesting as a human person whom we can see and hear. You understand? Because we can't communicate with subtle energy. So that's the relative Buddha. And the way to have confidence in the Buddha is by reading the teachings, thinking about it, and thinking, yes, I can have confidence in him or whoever. And then the next one is the Dharma. What's that? Well, that's the teachings that Buddha gives. Well, the actual Dharma, the absolute Dharma, is the knowledge, the wisdom in the mind of a Buddha, the actual knowledge of the Dharma, the real, the experiential knowledge, not just of the Buddha, but of what's called all the superior beings. So you become an Arya being or a superior being from the first second of your non-conceptual insight into emptiness. Like I said before, once you've had that first direct perception, direct realization of emptiness in your subtle meditation, from that second you become a superior being. You're climbing out of samsara into your nirvana. You've got much more work to do, but you can't fall back after that because you've cut the route. So the knowledge, the actual experiential knowledge in the minds of superior beings, including the Buddhas, that's the absolute Dharma. It's like the real music is in Bach's mind. But what good is that? We can't communicate with Bach, so he writes it down in little notations on a piece of paper. That's the relative music. Well, here, the relative Dharma is the words. The words. They talk about the power of speech. The real gift of the Buddha is his speech. The words that express the knowledge in his mind. And there's a lovely term in Tibetan, rigsin, knowledge holder. And that's all anybody. I mean, I remember my mother, when she first taught me to make a cake, that was when cakes became real for me. Because she's a valid cake maker. She was a rigsin, a knowledge holder of cakes. And that's what a teacher is. That's why we need a teacher. You can learn recipes in a book, but I heard this recipe for the first time from my mother, and that's when cakes became real for me. That's the function of a teacher. And that's the relative Dharma, the absolute, and the Buddha and the Dharma. So the relative Dharma is the words, which you put into practice. Then you've got the absolute Sangha is those superior beings. But the relative Sangha for the Buddha is anybody living in the fullness of his vows in his Vinaya. That means at least in any one place for the Buddha, where there are 4 fully ordained monks or nuns, that's the criterion for the existence of the livingness of Dharma in that place. So the absolute Sangha are the 4 Arya beings, but that could be the homeless person down the road you can't recognize. So the relative Sangha is represented by the monks and nuns. So that's the 3 jewels they talk about. So one is relying upon them. So you formalize your commitment to, take refuge every day, to try to be kind. There's a few things. You commit to take refuge every day. You commit to be kind to sentient beings. You commit to do a bit of study. You commit to have respect for the images that represent Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, a few little things like that. Then you formalize that and you just say 3 times in front of that person, I take refuge, blah, 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 blah. That's refuge. Then you have the 5 lay vows, and then you only do that once you've taken refuge, and that's really very powerful. So a commitment is a decision to do something, and a vow is a decision to refrain from something. And vows for the Buddha are just kind of mind-blowing. He loves his vows. They talk about all these different sets of vows to the different levels of teachings. So the way they say, the Buddha's teachings say that a vow is like a subtle physical energy that's visible to clairvoyance, like a subtle form. So there are 5, even though there's 10 little list of 10 instructions, vows are only about behavior, not about the mind. So there are 5 of them. And one is you vow never to kill a sentient being, human or any other. You vow never to lie. You vow never to steal or take the ungiven, as they say in Tibetan. And you vow not to cheat on partners, like sexual misconduct. And the 5th one, and people don't always take all of these, but you don't have to. The 5th one is a vow not to take intoxicants. So then and in front of that person, from now till the time of our death, I will never kill, I will never lie. You take that. And the Buddha would say, and this is what Lama Zopa says, which is Buddha's teachings, which is very powerful. He said, you could have one person doing masses of daily practice, lots of spiritual practice, but not living in vows. Even just not having a vow not to kill. Whereas you have one other person merely having a vow not to kill. The potency of vows is so marvelous that the person with just the vow not to kill is creating infinite more virtuous karma and purifying their mind infinitely more because of the power of vows. So the logic of it's like this. Like I said before, when you do an action, like kill the mouse, or no, you do an action called not killing. The main vow is to not kill. Lama Zopa, people say if you want to do one thing to be most powerful, don't kill. At least don't kill. Because it's the heaviest of all the negative actions. It's obvious. It's not to kill. So the point is this. We're sitting here right now, and we're not killing, are we? But there's no intention not to kill, is there? At this moment, we're not thinking, I will not kill, because there's no sentient being that you're trying to refrain from killing, unless you want to kill your boyfriend who's next to you. So it's only when you have the thought, I will not kill, because that's intention, that's only then that you drop the seed into your bank vault of not killing. Can you hear that point? It's only when you have the thought not to kill, because intention means karma. If there's no intention, there's no karma. Like the generosity, you walk past the homeless person, 20 francs falls out of your pocket, but there's no intention, so there's no generosity karma. Well, if there's no killing, but there's no intention not to kill, there's no virtue of not killing. And we need, at the time of our death, we need bucket loads of delicious, intentional, non-killing karmic seeds. Because the bare minimum requirement to even get another human birth is the morality of non-killing. That's the key cause of getting a human body. And we need bucket loads of those delicious, intentional, non-killing karmic seeds in our bank vault. That's the most basic of morality. So the easy way to create that morality is to live in vows of not killing, because this is the point of the vows now, that 24 hours a day that you have a vow not to kill, then 24 hours a day, whether you're thinking about it or not, because of the power of vows, you're ticking over virtuous karmic, you're dropping virtuous karmic seeds every second into your bank vault, and you're putting atomic bombs under your habits of past killing. So you can't get ahead of the game. Being a good person is not enough, Lama Zopa says. We need to have the vows. Vows are so potent. And having them in your mind stream is what makes practice so easy, So as Rinpoche says, for us, the cause of our life that we've got now isn't just being good in the past. We must have practiced the morality of not killing, not stealing, not lying in the past in the context of living in vows of not killing, not lying, not stealing, which is what gives us this human body, and then why we have even now the intention to be sitting in a room like this as opposed to the gun club is because we've lived in vows in the past. And so, for example, the 2 examples I gave, I think of those 2 little boys. One little boy crying with compassion for the lice in his own head when his mother's trying to take out the lice. Why that is because he had lived in vows in the past. And the other little boy who saw fishing for the first time, fell in love with fishing. He'd been in the lower realms in the past due to killing. He finished that karma, exhausted the main karma, but the tragedy was he hadn't vowed never to kill again. So he gets born in this life, and the residual result of that past killing continues, and he continues to kill, and straight back to the lower realms. That's the tragedy. So living in vows is fundamental, is like the best practice you can have, the easiest one. Okay? So you have to ask somebody to give you the vows and give you refuge. Whom you like and whom you decide, whom you think of as a teacher, and whom you like and whom you'd like to see as one of your teachers, and you'd request them to do it for you. Pardon? Well, I mean, first of all, you could ask me for sure. You could ask anybody, but then they have to decide. You have to know if they're qualified. So Lama Zopa happened to give me permission to do it in our organisation. So, but then I would say yes if you're confident that you are confident that you've checked up and you feel that you would have confidence to take it. Then we could do a little agreement and shake hands, and we could do it. But it could also be we could do it before the class finished. You don't have to wait till the class is over, if you wanted it. Do you understand? If you wanted, yes. So I'm very happy if people want, you want, whoever, we could do at the end of the class, or we could finish if you wanted. But it's important you do choose the person. It's important you feel confident. Because, you can have many teachers, and why it's important is because, the Buddha's not here. So, if I do it, I've given the commission from Lama Zopa to do it, and I got it from my teachers, you got it from their teachers, and you can actually, it's very powerful. You can track it back in an unbroken chain of humans right back to the Buddha. So it's kind of like this a person's the Buddha for you, and then it makes it more powerful for you. So if you want, we can certainly do if you want it, if you've thought about it. Okay. What else, people? Yeah. Huge, yes. Intention is I will kill the mouse. Bare bones. You see, the trouble is, I think, with us now, intention and motivation are so packed together we don't see the difference. And because we're programmed, like food, for example. I mean, I'm attached to food, So intention to eat is so linked, so locked with the motivation. You don't even decide separately. Because the motivation is attachment so strong and so habitual that it becomes like one thing. But there's two things there, and that's the miracle. If we can really understand the Bodhisattva path, we simply put in the new motivation. Before you put the food in the mouth, you decide, it's artificial in the beginning, okay, I'm going to eat so I can get healthy. I'm going to eat so I can be kind to sentient beings. Straight away, you put in a new motivation. And even though attachment's still there, you're training your mind to change your motivation. That's what I'm talking about. So intention is bare bones, I will. And then motivation. So in other words, there's no such thing as just simply intention. There's always something that motivates it. And that's what Buddha's saying. We're right now motivated by attachment. So changing our motivation or putting in a new motivation, that's what transforms our actions. Do you see? It's hugely different. And that's the Bodhisattva path that completely can transform. Just by every day, by deciding, what am I eating for? Oh, so I can be beneficial to sentient beings. Straight away, that has a powerful meaning. And that's why Lama Zopa says, do everything with bodhicitta. That's what it means. Remember the kindness of others. Remember to do your eating, your sleeping. Having your sex, do the same. But we feel guilty. Oh, you can't have good motivation for sex. Don't be ridiculous. Of course you can. You just decide, I'm going to be kind and generous. I'm bored tonight, but she wants, okay. Do you understand? I mean, really, I'm serious. You do it with a pure motivation. Straight away, an action that would normally be just attachment, self-centered, becomes a generous action. It's easy to transform. It's easy by changing our mind. Of course, you don't go around killing with compassion, please, okay? That's kind of, you draw the line there. Don't just say, I can change my motivation for everything. No. Do you get my point? But you've got to be conscious. This is why our question's so good, Sasha. You've got to be conscious to consciously decide to put in there a pure motivation. And then then like anything, you train in it and it becomes habitual. And one day you'll be spontaneously compassionate. It's very powerful, actually. But we tend to think, my motivation's so bad. Well, change it. We tend to be stuck with what's there, And that's why we have to have awareness of what's in our mind. That's the point. That's the whole point of being a Buddhist. You with me, Sasha? Yeah. You with me? Yeah. Okay, what else?